How the balloon was launched. Next morning the Scarecrow said to his friends, "I am going to Oz to get my brains at last. When I return I shall be as other men are." "I have always liked you as you were," said Dorothy simply. He went to the throne room, where he rapped upon the door. "Come in," said Oz. "I have come for my brains," said Scarecrow, a little uneasily. "Oh, yes, sit down," replied Oz. "You must excuse me for taking your head off, but I have to do it in order to put your brains in their proper place." "That's all right," said the Scarecrow. "You are quite welcome to take my head off as long as it will be a better one when you put it on again." So the Wizard unfastened his head. Then he took up a measure of bran, which he mixed with a great many pins and needles. He filled the top of the Scarecrow's head with a mixture and stuffed the rest of the space with straw. When he fastened the Scarecrow's head on his body again, he said, "Hereafter you will be a great man, for I have given you a lot of brand new brains." The Scarecrow was both pleased and proud at the fulfillment of his greatest wish, and, having thanked Oz warmly, he went back to his friends. Dorothy looked at him curiously. His head was quite bulged out at the top with brains. "How do you feel?" she asked. "I feel wise indeed," he answered earnestly. "Well, I must go to Oz and get my heart," said the Woodman. So he walked to the throne room and knocked at the door. "Come in," called Oz, and the Woodman entered and said, "I have come for my heart." "Very well," answered the little man, "but I shall have to cut a hole in your breast so I can put your heart in the right place." So Oz brought a pair of tinsmith shears and cut a small square hole in the left side of the Tin Woodman's breast. Then he took out a pretty heart made entirely of silk and stuffed with sawdust. "Isn't it a beauty?" he asked. "It is indeed," replied the Woodman. "But is it a kind heart?" "Oh, very," answered Oz. He put the heart in the Woodman's breast and then replaced the square of tin, soldering it neatly where it had been cut. "I am very grateful to you," exclaimed the happy Woodman. Then he went back to his friends, who wished him every joy. The Lion now walked to the throne room and knocked at the door. "Come in," said Oz. "I have come for my courage," announced the Lion, entering the room. "Very well," answered the little man. "I will get it for you." He went to a cupboard, and reaching up to a high shelf, took down a square green bottle, the contents of which he poured into a green gold dish. Placing this dish before the Cowardly Lion, the Wizard said, "Drink." "What is it?" asked the Lion. "Well," answered Oz, "if it were inside of you, it would be courage. You know, of course, that courage is always inside one, so that this cannot be called courage until you have swallowed it." The Lion hesitated no longer, but drank till the dish was empty. "How do you feel now?" asked Oz. "Full of courage," replied the Lion, who went joyfully back to his friends to tell them of his good fortune. Oz, left to himself, smiled to think of his success. "How can I help being a humbug," he said, "when all these people imagine that I can do anything? But it will take more than imagination to carry Dorothy back to Kansas." For 3 days Dorothy heard nothing from Oz, and she longed more than ever to get back to Kansas. Finally Oz sent for her. "Sit down, my dear. I think I found the way to get you out of this country," said the little man. "You see, when I came to this country it was in a balloon. You also came through the air, being carried by a cyclone. So I believe the best way to get across the desert will be through the air. Now it is quite beyond my powers to make a cyclone, but I've been thinking the matter over and I believe I can make a balloon. I have plenty of silk in the palace to make the balloon, and we can fill it with hot air to make it float." "Whee!" exclaimed the girl. "Are you going with me?" "Yes," replied Oz. "I am tired of being such a humbug. Now, if you will help me sew the silk together, we will begin work on our balloon." As fast as Oz cut the strips of silk into proper shape, the girl sewed them neatly together. First there was a strip of light green silk, then a strip of dark green, and then a strip of emerald green. It took 3 days to sew all the strips together, but When it was finished, they had a big bag of green silk, more than 20 feet long. Then Oz painted it on the inside with a coat of thin glue to make it airtight. He sent the soldier with the green whiskers for a big clothes basket, which he fastened with many ropes to the bottom of the balloon. When it was all ready, Oz sent word to his people that he was going to make a visit to a great brother wizard who lived in the clouds. The news spread rapidly, and everyone came to see the wonderful sight. The Tin Woodman chopped a big pile of wood and made a fire, and Oz held the bottom of the balloon over the fire so that the hot air would be caught in the silken bag. Gradually the balloon swelled out and rose into the air until finally the basket just touched the ground. Then Oz got into the basket and said, "I am now going away to make a visit. While I am gone, the scarecrow will rule over you. Obey him as you would me." The balloon was tugging hard at the rope that held it to the ground, for the air within it was hot, and this made it so much lighter in weight than the air without that it pulled hard to rise into the sky. "Come, Dorothy," cried the Wizard, "hurry up or the balloon will fly away." Toto had run into the crowd to bark at a kitten, but Dorothy at last found him. She picked him up and ran toward the balloon. She was within a few steps of it, and Oz was holding out his hands to help her into the basket when crack went the ropes, and the balloon rose into the air without her. "Come back!" she screamed. "I want to go too." "I can't come back, my dear," called Oz from the basket. "Goodbye!" "Goodbye!" shouted everyone, and all eyes were turned upward to where the Wizard was riding in the basket, rising farther and farther into the sky, and that was the last any of them ever saw of Oz. The wonderful Wizard, though the people remembered him lovingly, remembering that he built the beautiful Emerald City and left the wise Scarecrow to rule over them.